Have you ever sat in your bedroom, staring at a mobile screen that stubbornly refuses to light up, feeling that agonizing hollow ache of a man's sudden silence? That brutal abandonment is not an accident. It is the direct consequence of giving away your power through constant, desperate communication. You have been sold the dreadful lie that speaking your mind is the key to his heart. But the devastating, counterintuitive truth is this: sometimes, completely and utterly ignoring a man is the absolute only way to force him to truly hear you. Stop wasting your precious time looking for breadcrumbs of interest. Today, we are not analyzing his mixed signals. Instead, I am going to teach you how to ruthlessly bypass his logical brain and hack his nervous system, forcing his body to feel a violent, involuntary desire without you having to utter a single word. Welcome back to Destiny's Decree. Stop trying to talk your way into a man's mind. Most women exhaust themselves trying to be perfectly articulate, witty, or endlessly accommodating, failing to realize that true attraction is rarely negotiated through conversation. To truly command his attention, we must bypass his logical brain entirely and speak directly to his biology. It is about deploying silent, calculated maneuvers that trigger an involuntary physical response before he even understands what is happening. Men are notoriously visual creatures, but they are incredibly susceptible to micro-expressions that suggest unspoken, dangerous desire. This brings us to a psychological technique I call the triangle of fire. It is a precise, deliberate visual path that effectively hacks his nervous system, injecting a sudden rush of adrenaline straight into his veins. It operates entirely under the conscious radar, ensuring he feels the overwhelming tension without ever recognizing you as the architect of it. Picture this scenario. You are sitting together over a glass of Cabernet, and a natural lull in the conversation occurs. The amateur move is to panic, rushing to fill that heavy silence with nervous, high-pitched chatter about your dreadfully boring week at work. Instead, I want you to embrace the quiet. Anchor yourself in that silence. Sip your wine and let him feel the weight of your presence, looking entirely unbothered and utterly composed. As he looks at you, hold his gaze steadily. Then, with excruciating slowness, let your eyes drift down from his eyes to his lips. Linger there for a mere fraction of a second, just long enough for his subconscious to register the shift, before lazily dragging your gaze back up to meet his. Pair this with the faintest shadow of a smirk, a look that says absolutely everything whilst giving away absolutely nothing. In that fleeting moment, you have successfully simulated the biological anticipation of a kiss, forcing his body to release a potent cocktail of dopamine and cortisol. He will feel a sudden magnetic pull towards you, completely unable to articulate why his heart rate has just doubled. However, hijacking his gaze is merely the opening gambit. What you choose to do next with the physical distance between you is what will genuinely tip him over the edge. Once you have his mind reeling from that silent visual tension, it is time to masterfully manipulate the physical environment. Most women mistakenly believe that constant, uninterrupted closeness is the fastest route to a man's heart. They hover, they cling, and quite frankly, they suffocate the mystery right out of the dynamic. True spatial dominance is not about being glued to his side. Rather, it is about orchestrating a masterclass in contrast, turning his personal space into a psychological playground where you quietly dictate the rules of engagement. The male brain is profoundly stimulated by the unpredictable and quickly bored by the constant. If you are perpetually draped over him like a decorative throw cushion, you eventually just become part of the furniture, comfortable, entirely predictable, and completely unexciting. To become an addiction, you must learn to operate like a phantom, present enough to thoroughly intoxicate him, yet elusive enough to keep his nervous system perpetually starved for your proximity. It is the contrast between warm and cold that creates the electricity. Let us imagine you are together at a crowded social gathering, or sitting side by side on a rather plush sofa. Instead of raising your voice over the dreadful background noise, deliberately breach his fortress. Lean into him, crossing that invisible boundary of his personal space. Let him feel the sudden, unexpected warmth of your body, catch a fleeting trace of your signature perfume, and feel your breath just inches from his jawline. Whisper something entirely mundane, perhaps a dry observation about the host's questionable taste in music, but deliver it as if you are sharing a highly classified state secret. Now here's the crucial pivot where the amateur falters and the sovereign woman triumphs. The absolute second the words have left your lips, do not linger like a puppy waiting for a pat on the head. Immediately and smoothly retreat. Pull back into your original detached posture, cross your legs, and casually redirect your attention elsewhere, acting as if that intensely intimate invasion never even occurred. The sheer audacity of that abrupt withdrawal will leave his mind racing to catch up. By starving him of the closeness you just freely offered, you aggressively trigger his primal chase instinct. He will suddenly feel a cold draft in the exact spot where your warmth just was, and his biology will practically scream at him to bridge that gap once more. But dominating the empty air between you is only half the battle. To truly hardwire yourself into his sensory memory and make him crave your presence, you must learn the highly dangerous currency of physical contact. We must now discuss the currency of touch, a realm where most women make dreadful, entirely avoidable miscalculations. Society has fed you the rather cloying lie that prolonged, lingering physical affection is the ultimate builder of romance and burning desire. You stroke his arm endlessly. You rest your head on his shoulder for hours, behaving like a rather affectionate koala, and then wonder why the tension flatlines into a comfortable platonic void. What you are actually doing is overfeeding him. You are providing a constant, predictable stream of physical validation that completely neutralizes his primal urge to pursue. To effectively hack his nervous system and create genuine, obsession-inducing desire, you must trade comfortable predictability for a highly calculated jolt of electricity. Think of his sensory receptors like an intricate security system. A slow, constant pressure eventually gets ignored as mere background noise, but a sudden sharp trigger sets off every single alarm. This is the profound psychological power of the phantom touch. It is a touch so incredibly brief, so exquisitely fleeting, that it registers in his brain not as a maternal embrace, but as a striking electric shock. Let us look at a practical application for your next encounter. Imagine you are walking together to a restaurant, or perhaps laughing at a genuinely clever joke he just made. Instead of grabbing his arm and holding on for dear life, deliver a feather-light brush of your fingers against his bicep or the back of his shoulder. It must last for exactly 1 second, no more, no less. It is a deliberate, momentary collision of your physical worlds, executed with the casual grace of a woman who is entirely unfazed by his proximity, before your hand smoothly drops back to your side. That single ghostly second of contact completely short-circuits his logical processing. Because the touch was withdrawn almost the exact moment it was registered, his brain is aggressively denied the comfortable resolution it instinctively craves. He is left with a sudden spike of dopamine, and an infuriatingly addictive phantom sensation exactly where your fingers just rested. He will spend the remainder of the evening subconsciously obsessing over that brief spark, desperately trying to decode whether it was an accidental graze or a deliberate invitation. You have now successfully manipulated his visual focus, his personal space, and his sensory memory without breaking a single sweat. His nervous system is officially on high alert, deeply attuned to your every subtle shift. However, the most devastating weapon in your arsenal does not involve movement or physical contact at all. In fact, to truly unnerve him and force him into a position where he feels a sudden, overwhelming need to prove his worth to you, you must master the terrifyingly powerful art of doing absolutely nothing at all. We have finally arrived at the apex of silent psychological warfare, the absolute, terrifying absence of your validation. From a young age, women are conditioned to be the ultimate social smoothers, relentlessly nodding, smiling, and offering enthusiastic little noises of agreement simply to make a man feel comfortable. It is a deeply ingrained trauma response, masquerading as politeness, born from the fear that his silence means you are losing his interest. However, spoon-feeding him this constant ego-stroking does not make you magnetic. It merely makes you a rather convenient mirror for his own vanity. To completely flip the power dynamic, you must master what I call the dramatic pause. This is the calculated refusal to reward him with immediate praise the exact moment he expects it. When you withhold that predictable, comforting reaction, you create a sudden psychological vacuum in the conversation. The male ego, much like nature, absolutely abhors a vacuum. Deprived of the easy applause he is accustomed to receiving from other women, his brain will panic, perceiving this sudden lack of validation as a puzzle he desperately needs to solve. Consider a highly typical scenario. He is sitting across from you, rather pompously recounting a story about a recent triumph at work, or subtly bragging about his shiny new vehicle. The standard feminine script dictates that you lean in, widen your eyes, and chirp, "Oh wow, that is incredibly impressive." I beg you, throw that desperate, pathetic script directly into the fire. Instead, when he finishes his sentence and implicitly waits for his trophy, offer him nothing but a deep, unreadable silence. Hold his gaze with the calm, observant eyes of a sovereign woman assessing her realm. Do not break eye contact. Do not let your eyes dart around the room, and above all, fiercely resist the urge to deploy a reassuring smile just to break the tension. Simply look at him, letting that heavy, thick silence stretch on for 3, 4, or even 5 excruciating seconds. You will practically be able to see the cogs turning in his head as he begins to mentally sweat, completely unnerved by your stillness. In those few seconds of brilliant, calculated silence, a profound shift in the hierarchy occurs. He will suddenly feel entirely inadequate, hit by the overwhelming realization that his usual tricks have miserably failed you. To overcompensate and ease his own immense discomfort, he will inevitably start talking again, over-explaining himself and frantically trying to prove his worth just to earn a shred of your approval. Yet possessing this brutal level of control over his nervous system is completely useless unless you understand exactly how to secure it permanently. True power, you see, never needs to scream to be heard. It simply commands the room in absolute, elegant silence. Now, I must pose a rather provocative question to you. Which of these silent maneuvers have you already deployed and watched a man instantly melt over, completely losing his composure? Or perhaps you possess a devastatingly subtle move of your own, that leaves them entirely defenseless? Share your confessions in the comments below. Let us map out the psychological battlefield together. If you are truly ready to cease playing by their rules and completely master the intricate psychology of relationships, do subscribe to Destiny's Decree and activate those notifications. Until our next exclusive briefing, remain beautifully unreadable.